I'm Dr. Joseph MT, Department of Sociology, University of Mumbai, and this is the E-Pathshala project on religion and society. Now we are in module 19. In this module, we are looking at caste among other religions of India. Now, it is always said that caste is legitimized in the Hindu social order. But caste and caste-like formations and practices are also very visibly evident across India among people of other religions, whether Muslims, Christians, Jains, Sikhs, Buddhists, and so on. So in this module, we will look at an explanation and a description of these with very relevant case studies. And this is what we are going to see in this module. Module 19, Caste among other religious communities in India. Section 1, Islam. Islam is the second largest religion in India. Its adherents regard it as an egalitarian religion where birth, status, etc. do not count. Faith is the only criterion based on which the community of believers is formed. However, scholars have noted that Muslim society in India has had an elaborate system of stratification. The basic distinction is premised on genealogies of conversion. Those who trace foreign descent, as in claim that their ancestors arrived from the Arab world, which was already under the influence of Islam, exercise superiority over those who converted to Islam later, which are new Muslims. Categories of stratification among Muslims in India are complex and elaborate. Ashrafs are the high-ranking nobility, and their claims of descent are from Arabs, Persians, Turks, and Afghans, and converts from the upper caste or class Hindus. Ajlafs are lower caste comprising of village artisans, and Arzals comprise of those doing leather work or those who are landless laborers. Non-Ashrafs are claimed to be converts from the indigenous populations and have various occupational castes. Ashrafs are further divided into Sayyids, Sheikhs, Mughals, and Pathans in that order of ranking. This elaborate system reflects the division of labor that the Hindu caste system espouses, operationalized through Jajmani relations of service and patronage and status associated with occupations. The hierarchies among Muslims present a caste-like system, if not the caste system itself. The debate on whether this stratification system among them can be called a caste system will be brought up later in this section. Nazir, 1993, is of the opinion that the way this system of stratification has to be analyzed should come not from debating over categories, but by trying to understand how Muslims understand and practice socio-economic hierarchies themselves. In an earlier study of Muslims in the Swat region of Pakistan, Barth argues that since there was ranking among groups based on notions of purity and pollution, what locals described as qoms were in fact castes. Those dealing with human waste were ranked lowest, and the rigidity among these qoms was very high. Similarly, in Bhatti's fieldwork in Uttar Pradesh, she observed notions of purity and impurity and ranking based on these among Muslims. Among the non-Ashrafs, those handling impure things on a regular basis like night soil, dead animals, etc. were deemed impure as a group, and touching an individual from such a group was considered polluting, requiring a bath or purifying oneself, and practiced by both Ashrafs and non-Ashrafs of higher ranking. As such, this purification by bath was prescribed even for handling polluting things such as any human secretion. Women during their menstrual cycle were not supposed to offer namaz or practice ritual fasting. Although the rituals for purification after coming in contact with a polluting substance or person were not as elaborate as among Hindus, the notion of ritual purity is very much a part of the caste system and ideology. Further, the practice of caste endogamy and disapproval of marriages across groups was persistent. Also, like among Hindus, communal eating had boundaries. Ashrafs and non-Ashrafs did not eat with each other. The terms used by people to describe social groups are Zad or Biradari, patrilineal descent groups. Biradaris are kin groups which define boundaries of a community, and in Bhatti's field, even as Biradari panchayats which took up more political and moral roles. Changes in socio-political conditions meant changes in these Biradaris as well. In the case of the Punjab, the divisions among Biradaris or Zats were hinged on notions of power and prestige, which have been reconstituted since the advent of capitalism in agriculture in Punjab. In Uttar Pradesh too, even as higher-ranking biradaris have attempted to capture political clout and direct state's resources towards themselves, the non-ashrafs have had material growth, and many have also left the village, leaving the biradari hierarchy altogether. More recently, the presence of caste and caste-based discrimination has been highlighted by the mobilization of Pasmanda Muslims. Pasmanda, which means marginalized, is a common term for lower caste Muslims who have been challenging the notion of a unified Muslim community and have provoked fissures into the idea of religiously ordained egalitarianism in Islam. Starting in Bihar, the mobilization began in response to the demands of reservation and claims of socio-economic backwardness by leaders of the various religious bodies like the Jama-Ulama-e-Hind, All India Muslim Personal Law Board, etc. Following the divisions among Muslims as listed above, the Pasmanda Mahaz, an umbrella organization, argues that a large part of the Muslims in India are in fact Pasmanda, while a few groups like the Ashrafs are privileged and powerful. The groups under the Pasmanda umbrella are occupationally lower ranked: butchers, weavers, cleaners, and washermen. It is claimed that their conditions are similar, if not worse, than Dalits in terms of social indicators like education, health, employment, etc. In fact, they are increasingly being called Dalit Muslims. Their marginalization, though not ordained by Islam, is more a matter of everyday practice in politics. From calling of pejorative names to separate housing clusters to exclusion from all offices of power, the marginalization of these groups is clearly highlighted by the control of ashrafs over all positions of power within the community. It has been argued that this as an institutionalized form of discrimination. Questions of livelihood and reservations have dominated the demands of Pasmanda Muslims, as has the critique of the dominant class of Ashraf Muslims, which seeks to speak in the name of all Muslims. The more recent phenomenon takes us back to the question of whether the stratification of Muslim society in India is in fact caste-based one. According to Bhatti, the approaches to understanding caste has been of two kinds: cultural and structural. The cultural conception of caste, as done by Louis Dumont and others, emphasizes the uniqueness of the caste system which is peculiar to Hindu society. The concepts of ritual purity and impurity are viewed as central to the caste system, and they are found lacking or too weak in comparable society. The structural conception, caste is understood as a mechanism for social stratification and determines social structure in terms of status groups. This approach extends the understanding of caste-based groups to other religions as well. In this regard, as argued by Nazir, the recognition of the self and the community as Pasmanda or Dalit Muslims further asks us to question if the distinction between caste system and caste-like system is important. Perhaps the question here is also about what is the purpose of an inquiry. If the question is about the nature or of access to power and resources which is grounded in ideology of ranks, status, endogamy, inheritance, genealogy, etc., there are echoes of the caste system among Muslims in India. However, the practice of this stratification and religious action around it is not the same between Islam and Hinduism. Section 2, Christianity. This section will look at the operation of caste hierarchies among Christians. The focus of this section will be southern India. All the believers of Christianity are spread across India. In trying to understand the presence of caste in other religions, Tharamangalam argues it is not enough to look for specific characteristics like hereditary, occupation, endogamy, etc. Several practices and ideological constructs associated with caste have reshaped and reconstituted themselves. In this section too, we would see if the self-conception of caste among Christians in South India is how far it holds. Christians make up around 2.6% of Indian population. The earliest community of Christians in India was that of the Syrian Christians in Kerala. They are supposedly descendants of upper caste Brahmins who converted to Catholicism, according to Tharamangalam. The Syrian Christians in the southern part of India, Kerala especially, consider themselves to be superior and practice endogamy. From early on, there were elements in the church which spoke against casteist practices, and many groups of missionaries brought lower caste into the fold of Christianity. Particularly from the 19th century onwards, Protestant churches began to bring in groups of lower castes, and there were movements of mass conversion coming from the restlessness among these groups. In Kerala, there was entirely a new caste of neo-Christians who were Dalits. Around the same time, there were conversion in Adivasi regions of the northeast hill regions. Tharamangalam claims that Christians in India are concentrated in certain pockets in the country and drawn predominantly from their Dalit and tribal backgrounds. As among Muslims, a large portion of the opportunities of upward mobility among Christians were taken over by upper caste Christians, converts who were upper caste. Dalit Christians have not experienced much change in their status. Although there are some overlaps between caste and sect, they convert to but broadly the two are different like in Muslims. The overlaps, however, wherever they are, have happened due to mass conversion movements. Many Christians retain their pre-conversion identities and function as endogamous groups. Christians in Kerala are broadly divided into three groups based on descent: the Syrians, the Latin Catholics, and Neo-Christians. While Syrians claim high ranks, Latin Catholics are accorded positions lower than the Syrians. Neo-Christians, as mentioned earlier, are converts from Dalit caste and Yajmani relations with many of the Christians, who claim to have previously been Brahmins. Integration of Dalit Christians into churches dominated by Syrians has been difficult and has also given rise to many exclusive Dalit churches. In Goa and Tamil Nadu as well, there are differences between Christians who are Dalits and Christians who converted from other castes. In terms of pollution, many practices are understood and explained as emanating from a concern for hygiene. Dietary practices are also not rigid among Syrians. However, interaction, which was highly restricted in the past, has eased up now due to socio-economic factors. Much of the interaction between Syrians and Dalits is enabled by the demands that modern day living makes, such a living and working together in an office, attending school, etc. In terms of endogamous practices, the distance between Dalit and non-Dalit castes remains, even if it is not too rigid within the group. Differences of residence and dining were maintained among Christians based on segregations that were practiced before conversion. Although these have weakened over the years, but instances of commensality across castes is still not a common practice. Although missionary policies have stressed on opposing caste-based practices, segregation is maintained by Syrians within the church and affiliated bodies in positions of authority like priests, bishops, and even hospitals and colleges. Even within the same denomination, segregation of Dalit Christians is enforced through separate churches or assigned places of sitting for them within the same church. These segregation practices also keep Dalit Christians away from acquiring important positions within the church and make access to rituals difficult. Church politics, in fact, has become a ground for assertions by upper caste Christians and resistance by Dalit Christians, especially as much of the management has passed on from the European priests to locals. Cases of position of power within the church being circulated among those who come from groups such as of high status are common and have in fact led to many Dalit Christian groups setting up their own churches, a sort of secession where they have set up churches with new Dalit theologies. This disillusionment also comes from a sparse opportunity of mobility from conversion that have come their way, and the denial of advantages of being scheduled castes or SCs, which are not available to them because of having changed the religion. There have been instances of reconversion. Many of these resistances have now started talking about a Dalit theology inspired by liberation theology, which sees Christianity itself as a movement of Dalits, and the Christian message is essentially a movement for the liberation of Dalits. Many missionaries have anyway attacked caste system as being inconsistent with Christianity. Christianity to some extent might have eroded the notions of purity and pollution, but the collusion of caste with socioeconomic power has stagnated opportunities of mobility while at the same time reconstituted the practice of caste. At any rate, Christianity took root in a system which was deeply feudal, and that elements of it have certainly extended the practice of caste to Christianity as well. The Dalit liberation theology movement has been trying to assert its demands of social justice, decentralized church authority, more Dalit Christians as priests, livelihood opportunities for poor Dalit Christians, etc., taking the existence of caste practices into a political arena. Sikhism in India was founded in the late 15th century in the region of Punjab. It was established by Guru Nanak, who was followed by 9 other teachers or gurus. After the gurus, the Guru Granth Sahib, the holy book, became to be worshipped. It has been argued that Sikhism was a tradition within Hinduism. Guru Nanak was born into a Hindu family and chose the path of the sons of his time. He, like many others of the sons who were part of the Bhakti tradition, believed in unorthodox devotion and preached the existence of God in all creations, a formless Nirgun God. In many ways, these early traditions were a move away from orthodox Hinduism and went into the making of Sikhism as an egalitarian religion. With the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, the Khalsa order was established and Sikhism slowly got established as a religion. Sikhism, like Islam and Christianity, preaches equality as a part of their creed. But the Indian state recognizes caste in Sikhism and provides for reservations of the Dalit caste. Judge Paramjit Judge argues that the caste system as it operates among Sikhs is not the same as it is among Hindus. He argues for an understanding in which empirical positioning of caste is how hierarchy is understood and not through the mapping of Varna Vyavastha into social life. The Sikh population of Punjab is composed of castes which have an organizational hierarchy different from that of Hindus. Land ownership is the primary indicator of power, which is mostly in control of Jat Sikhs. Some other caste groups, including other backward castes, are also land-owning, and they together form peasant caste. They form the top of this hierarchy, which is different from the idea of dominant caste emerging from within the Varna system. In fact, this order of caste hierarchy itself represents power and privilege. This is followed by Brahmins, traders, that's Baniya, and some artisanal castes like Ramgadiyas, who were traditionally carpenter and masons. Next in the hierarchy are various service and artisanal castes like ironsmiths, lohar, goldsmiths, sunar, etc. At the bottom of this hierarchy are Dalit castes like Valmikis, Mazhabis, and Maiks. Judge argues that within each group in this hierarchy is vertically aligned, and some maintain exclusivity as well. Shift to the urban areas has brought changes to traditional occupations, which has meant some loss of domination for the peasant caste and some opportunities of mobility and freedom from subordination for the Dalits. What is also interesting is that the top of the caste hierarchy are groups which are engaged in physical labor, agriculture, while otherwise it's non-physical labor which is accorded high status in Hinduism. Apart from agriculture, the colonial policy of including Sikhs in the army, classifying them as a martial race, contributed to the social domination that they exercise. Green revolution in agriculture in the 1970s, which was basically with the introduction of capitalist agriculture, contributed to the socio-economic strength of Jats, even as it brought in wage labor, followed by migration of lower castes from agricultural labor and large-scale migration of laborers from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, who could be sustained at lower wages. The fact that Jat Sikhs occupy positions of power in the Gurudwara management and other bodies of authority contributes to the domination and also resentment among other castes. Surinder Jodga observes a decline in overt practices of caste discrimination among Dalits. Except for the task of scavenging, many of the unclean occupations have been opened up to the market where, for example, contractors help dispose of dead animals. In terms of provision of services and access to economic resources, he did not notice any blatant discrimination. In the matter of access to religious places, where some amount of discrimination was experienced by Dalits, especially on the subject of langad or communal eating, there were groups that moved to put and build their own Gurudwaras. The Jat Sikhs would not visit these Gurudwaras, but there were exceptions. There are two major communities of Dalits in Punjab: the Chamars and the Chuhras. The Chamars underwent the Adi Dharam movement in 1920s, following which they identified themselves as Ravidasis and moved away from Hinduism. They were enumerated, and some continued to get themselves counted among scheduled caste Hindus but have moved closer to Sikhism. Similarly, the Chuhras, called the Mazhabis, also moved closer to Sikhism. Despite being a minority, the Hindu religious practices in the state continued to discriminate against Ravidasis, Mazhabis, Valmikis, and other Dalit groups. In the Gurudwara hierarchy, they have experienced some mobility, which is limited but certainly meaningful as compared to the situation within the Hindu social fold. Agricultural labor, however, continues to be a terrain where inequalities faced by Dalits are grave. Punjab has the highest population of scheduled castes in proportion to other caste groups, which is something like 28 to 30%, when the average in the rest of India is closer to 16%. Among them, the agricultural wage labor has been a common occupation, as ownership of land by these groups among the lowest in the country. The politics of Kanshiram, which focused although on the Ravidasis and Valmikis, brought the assertion of identity by Dalit groups into the public sphere. This has been a part of a long history of movements against caste, in which the advent of Sikhism itself could perhaps be included. In the contemporary period, states banking of positive discrimination and changes in the material conditions, specifically in the declining role of agricultural labor in maintaining caste differences, has opened up avenues for a new kind of politics. The establishment of deras by various gurus has been one of the direct challenges to Gurudwara hierarchy and some orthodox Sikhism, which continues to be dominated by the Sikhs. Control of positions of power and management of Gurudwaras remains a sensitive issue. Panchayat elections are another field where contestations between Jat Sikhs or the Ravidasis or Valmikis are high, even if leading to violent confrontations. However, these two groups, because of their political strength over the years, have been a base where dominant parties wish to form allies. Such permutations, though unstable, have enforced a certain kind of mobility and power to these two Dalit groups, leaving out the rest. The consequence of the politics of difference is exclusive in uniqueness of each Dalit caste, paving the way for the political domination of the traditional political parties, namely the Shiromani Akali Dal and the Congress Party, and both are controlled by the Jat Sikhs. We have ruptured social hierarchy with the perpetuation of a pattern of political dominance, the consequence of which is the reinforcement of caste identities and formation of exclusive caste communities. By Paramjit Judge. Conclusion, Module 19. In this module, we have looked at caste and caste-like formations and practices in religious communities other than Hinduism across the length and breadth of India. Thank you.